Bored Bella learns about fiction and nonfiction. This is Bored Bella. She is always bored. Bored, bored, bored. Snoozeroo. Everything is boring to Bored Bella. One day Bella's class went to the library to check out books. Ho-hum, thought Bella. Books are boring. The librarian's name was Mrs. Page Turner. Bella thought Miss Turner was kind of interesting, but just a little. She asked the kids what they'd like to read about. Jamal said he would like to read about sharks, and Lacey wanted to read about soccer. Janet said she would like to read about outer space. Bored Bella didn't want to read about anything. She just sat there, looking bored. Once you know what you want to read about, you can decide if you want to read fiction or nonfiction, said Miss Turner. Both kinds of books can be very interesting. What does fish game mean? Asked Lacey. She thought it had to do with sharks. Fiction, said Miss Turner. Fiction is a story made up by an author. Authors sometimes write fiction so the action in the story sound like it really happened, Miss Turner continued. In this book it says, once there was a space pirate named Gerald, but we know space pirates aren't real. So what's nonfiction? Asked Jamal. I'm glad you asked, said Miss Turner, putting on a space helmet. The goal of nonfiction is to give information. Authors write nonfiction books to give facts about real people, places, or things. People read nonfiction to learn about something. The author might write, people sent a robot to Mars. The robot explored the planet. That's a pretty awesome story, so you might think it's made up, said Miss Turner, but this is nonfiction, so it's true. People do send robots to Mars. They're called Mars rovers. Bella thought that Mars rovers sounded kind of interesting, but she didn't admit it. Miss Turner said, in fiction, the author invents people to be in the story. These people are called characters. The characters usually have a problem. They do their best to solve it. Miss Turner continued, here's an example. Space pirate Gerald was lost. He wanted to go home. Gerald the space pirate is a made-up character. Characters don't have to be people. They could be animals, robots, or imaginary creatures, such as monsters or space aliens. So if it's a story, it's fiction, said Lacey. Not always, Miss Turner replied. Nonfiction can be told like a story, but the information is true. You can read the story of how a Mars rover was launched into space and what it did once it got to Mars, she said. You can even read nonfiction stories about people, such as the people who built the rovers, said Miss Turner. Nonfiction stories about people are called biographies. I like fiction best, said Janet. Everything in fiction is made up. That's cool. Miss Turner raised a finger in the air. Actually, she said, even though fiction is made up, it can have real facts in it. But if the author's goal was to tell a made-up story, then the book is fiction. Here's an example. A rover rolled across Mars. This part is true. A space pirate named Gerald landed nearby to ask the rover for directions, she said. The part about the space pirate Gerald is made up, Miss Turner said. This story is fiction, but it has a true detail about the Mars rover in it. Bella raised her hand. She did it in a very bored-looking way, but she secretly was interested. "I like books with drawings," she said, when Miss Turner called on her. I mean, some people, if they're not totally bored, might like books with drawings in them. So should those people get fiction or nonfiction?" "Either one," exclaimed Miss Turner. "Both fiction and nonfiction books can have illustrations or drawings." Most of the time, a book with photographs is nonfiction. That's because photos are taken of real people, places, and events. "How can you tell if a book is fiction or nonfiction?" asked Bella. "By the title?" "Good question," replied Miss Turner. "You can't tell by the title," she said. "Look here. These two books are both called Mars Adventure, but this one is fiction and the other is nonfiction." "That's no help," said Bella. "Well, here's a hint," said Miss Turner. "Fiction and nonfiction books are shelved in different parts of the library." "Here's another hint," Miss Turner said. "Library books have call numbers on their spines. If the book is fiction, the call number starts with F or FIC. That stands for fiction. Below, that is the first letter or the first few letters of the author's last name. If the book is nonfiction, it has a Dewey call number," Miss Turner continued. "The call number has 3 digits, then a period or decimal point, then it has more numbers after the period. Below the call numbers are the first 3 letters of the author's last name." Workers at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. look at newly published books. They label the books fiction or nonfiction. They also give nonfiction books their Dewey call number. "There's another way to tell if a book is fiction or nonfiction," said Miss Turner. "Read the description of the book on the back cover or inside flap. When you read it, ask yourself, what is the book about? What happens in the book? Is the purpose of the book to give information or tell a story? If the book is about Mars rovers and it gives details about them, it's probably nonfiction. If the book is about a made-up character who lands near a Mars rover, it's fiction." Miss Turner looked at all the kids. "Any questions?" she asked. "Yes," said Bella. "Can we check out books now?" The end.